Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, we are inching closer. We're now 3 weeks away, gentlemen, from the start of the 2025 NFL League year.
Oh, yeah.
We should do a ball dropping ceremony in New York City for that.
Football drop.
Replace the disco ball looking thing with a football.
Flies out of the sky. It's tag week, though. That's the week.
Tomorrow, right?
No.
Tomorrow's the first day. Now, usually, maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't think.
Correct.
So the window to franchise tag someone starts tomorrow, but then it goes until like March 3rd or March 5th.
Yeah.
So you've got some time to play with here. Do teams come out right away and just like insta tag players, franchise tag tomorrow, or do we usually give it some time in the window?
It's a good question. That's a good question. I have some questions about this that I will broach during the course of today's show, because I think there's definitely a strategy to the tag.
Every Sunday night we always do the calendar, and I looked at for this week, and I saw I have an oil change this Thursday. We have the golf show coming up on Saturday, and on Tuesday it just says tag season, and I'm like, what is tag season? And then within a couple seconds it clicked. I was like, it's franchise tag season.
That's right. So we're our first hot take question here, or I guess hot take, and we will decide if it's a hot take, is regarding the Vikings' use of the franchise tag. So we'll get to that. So the hottest Vikings take, we'll get to Vikings news on this Monday after we start at Quick Trip. Judd, let's do it.
Oh, yeah. Guess what? It's Monday, and you're getting up, and it's freezing cold outside, and you're saying, I don't want to get up. What am I going to do? What am I going to have for lunch? And I'm going to tell you right now, you know what? Quick Trip can't fix the cold, but they can fix the dilemma of what you are going to have for breakfast or lunch, or for basically any grocery items that you need. And here's the beautiful thing. Quick Trip is basically a grocery store, but it's a convenience store. So your life is made so much easier as you look around, and on a cold day, you get a cup of the delicious Karuba coffee. Perhaps the gas tank is low. Do not allow it to go low this time of year. When it's this cold outside, that gas tank needs to be filled. In fact, you can pump gas. You can put the Quick Trip app on your phone. They'll bring you out what you want. Oh my gosh, is it simple. Making life simple when life can be very difficult is what Quick Trip does for you.
And Is This a Hot Take is presented by Standard Heating and Air, too. Very much a company you might want to get a hold of on a day like today.
Absolutely. Make sure that furnace is working, and Standard can come out and help you out. In fact, if you're part of that Smart Club, which Standard has, you get priority booking, you get discount off repairs. Standard Heating came to the rescue for me last week in my home inspection when I was trying to make sure everything was shipshape with that furnace. Without Standard Heating, I don't know if I'm able to buy this house. So if you're kind of a dingus like I am, you don't know what you're looking at, go contact Standard. Do not DIY the furnace, okay? No DIYing the furnace. Get the experts out there at Standard Heating and standardheating.com to give them the one-through of that furnace. Standardheating.com to learn more.
Okay, is this a hot take? And there's an article behind this from our guy Kevin Seifert, Judd's former cohort back in the day at the Star Tribune, currently at ESPN.com. Is this a hot take? The Vikings should franchise tag someone else besides Sam Darnold. So all of our conversations to this point have been, are they going to franchise Darnold and either lock him in for another year at $41 million, which I think we all agree doesn't make sense, or franchise tag him to trade him to some other team? I want to read you what Kevin writes, and then you guys can tell me if this is a hot take. So he says, using the tag on Darnold, which they could do tomorrow. They could tag anyone. They could tag one player on the roster starting tomorrow. It's tag season, baby.
Tag season.
So using the tag on Sam Darnold would be an expensive way of ensuring his return while avoiding a longer-term commitment that would hinder J.J. McCarthy's eventual ascension. So you could just, all right, we're going to keep you for 1 year. It might kind of piss you off because you'd like to get a 3-year contract. You could also tag him as a way to elicit additional value by way of trade, but that would require knowledge that multiple teams are willing to bid, and you'd have to facilitate a bidding war. In the end, the Vikings seem more likely to let Darnold walk and sign elsewhere and preserve their franchise tag for a player such as cornerback Byron Murphy Jr., who had a career-high 6 interceptions, hitting his prime at age 27. If nothing else, it would give the Vikings time to sign Byron Murphy to a longer-term deal while keeping him off the market. Now, according to Over the Cap, they've got the accurate quarterback number here. Franchise tagging a quarterback is $41 million. That's the number we've been using. A cornerback franchise tag is $20 million, a one-year, $20 million deal. Now, Byron Murphy Jr., the projections are like maybe $14 to $17 million a year. So this would be a placeholder. You'd tag him, make sure he doesn't hit the open market, and you would then control the negotiation with him maybe like in a few weeks or later on this summer. So I'll say it again. Is this a hot take? The Vikings should franchise tag someone else besides Sam Darnold.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I think if it gets to a place where you need to franchise tag Murphy, like I like him a lot, and he is definitely, if you look at the list of free agent cornerbacks, one of the top free agents on the market at that position. But that being said, I don't know he's a franchise tag type of talent. And so I think outside of Darnold, who of course you would tag with the complete intention of trading, and that's where I've got a question about this. I think it is a hot take. I don't think it's a hot take that you might sign him to a 3-year contract. But if it comes down to we're going to have to tag you, which again gets into the weeds of some salary cap stuff, and that's $20 million, and you can't play around with that. Like that is just like, it's not like you can then push part of that $20 million into the next year or so. So I think it's a fairly hot take. I think it's a hot take that you would consider the franchise tag on someone not named Sam Darnold, and that's a hot take if you can't trade him. So
I think there's two paths when you're franchise tagging either Darnold or Murphy. You're franchise tagging Darnold, obviously, hopefully to like facilitate a trade first. Like the goal is not to franchise tag Darnold to then lock him up to another deal that's more team friendly and just have him around. With Murphy, it's the opposite. You're not tagging Murphy with the idea of hopefully you're able to trade him to get an asset. You're tagging him so he doesn't hit the open market and you can work out a much better team friendly deal. So I get paths for both of them. I would lean the Murphy one, though, because you're tagging him just to avoid the unrestricted free agency part, and you still can lock him into a probably decently team-friendly contract. Or with Darnold, you're not trying to lock up Darnold. So I can see the path, and I can see why it would make sense for them to actually entertain tagging Murphy instead of Darnold.
Could I suggest, and I do think this is also, it's a semi-hot take, because it does make some sense in maybe this perspective. There's the transition tag. So there's two different types of franchise tags. The one that we're talking about here, the 1 year, $20 million for a cornerback, would be the non-exclusive franchise tag. So if you tagged Byron Murphy Jr. or Sam Darnold for that matter, non-exclusive, which is the most common type of franchise tag, that would allow those players to negotiate with another team. So you would essentially say, okay, Byron Murphy, before you hit the market, we're going to franchise tag you. So we're on the hook. If you sign that tender later on this year, we're on the hook for 1 year, $20 million, period. We can work on something longer term, and that's great. But you then get to go scout the open market. If another team decides, yeah, we love ourselves some Byron Murphy Jr., we'll give him a 3-year, $50 million contract or $60 million contract. Well, that team, in addition to paying him that money, would have to give the Vikings their next 2 first-round picks, which pretty much wipes out any chance of, with all the other cornerbacks on the market. Yeah. I could go sign Reed or Charvarius Ward for similar money, even though those guys are maybe like a year or two older, and not have to give up 2 first-round picks. But then there's the transition tag. So the transition tag would be for a cornerback, a 1 year, $17 million valuation, which is probably a little more in line with where, because Byron Murphy's not like top of the line. He's like a good B+ cornerback. So what would happen then is you would say, okay, we're going to transition tag Byron Murphy Jr., which, because it's tag season, could happen as soon as tomorrow. That's right. So you would say, all right, we're going to transition tag you 1 year, $17 million. You then go get to, once the NFL league year starts in 3 weeks, you can then go and explore the market. And then we, the Vikings, would get the right to match any offer. So it's like restricted free agency almost. You go transit, but if a team signs him to an offer sheet and the Vikings say, yeah, it's a little rich for our blood, he would then walk in free agency to that team. No first round pick compensation. He would just be able to go to that team. You'd get a comp pick like potentially in 2026. So I actually think the transition tag, because you're looking to keep Byron Murphy Jr., the transition tag could make perfect sense for a player like him, but not Sam Darnold, because you're not looking to match an offer.
Right,
and
right. And the problem with the franchise tag is that's a value. So like if the Vikings slapped the franchise tag at 20 mil, that tells Murphy and his camp that's what you're worth. So like he's very unlikely to then say, oh, I'd love $14 million per season. Yeah, give me that. He's going to say like that's the catch with Darnold is when you franchise him, that sets the value, and now you're going off of that.
Yeah,
so
at least for a 1 year
Yeah.
value. Yeah.
Right, but he would be saying, "Oh, hold on a second. You're saying I'm worth $20 million for 2025. That's awesome. Now let's work on that." And the Vikings would say, "Oh, no, our intention was to bring that down." And he would say, "Screw you." So yes, the transition tag is not a hot take, but if they think that there might be a situation where he says, "Hey guys, I am worth $20 million," and they're like, "No, you're really not." But then he's like, okay, fine, I'll go shop myself. Well, now it's a game of chicken. And if he is, he's gone. If he's not, he possibly stays. So yes, that makes a lot more sense. I do have a big concern though about like we have said that he's probably worth 17 million max per season. Like that's a lot. So I'm not going to go 3 million above that to keep him. The transition tag I would do.
And it's like you throw on these numbers, I almost feel like it would be, it's hard to, you can't really do this math on the fly, but it would almost be better if we all used like percentage of your team salary cap as the number. So if Byron Murphy Jr. were to sign for $17 million a year, he'd be worth about 6% of your team salary cap, which is a lot because there's 53 guys on your active roster, obviously. So it kind of sounds like a ton of money, but it's also fairly reasonable this is my biggest question on Murphy, actually, is he was really good last year, but eye test, metrics, PFF, everything in the 2 years before that didn't love him as much. So has he reached a new level in this system, and Flores is back, so it does matter that he thrives in this system. Has he reached a new level with age and with a better system that is now sustainable going forward to where you would say, we trust you to repeatably be one of the better cornerbacks in the league? Or as it is the case with a lot of cornerbacks, they might have a pop-up season and then kind of come back to earth. How trustworthy is Byron Murphy Jr. as, if you're going to pay him like it, one of the top 15 cornerbacks in the NFL?
What do the underlying stats beyond the picks say? Because I think that's the important thing. The picks stand out, but in their own right, that they're sort of random.
They can be, yeah.
And we saw that. Like he picked off some there. If a quarterback panics and throws a dumb pass, and I catch that, hey, I'm credited with a pick. But the reality is, it was a random pass.
It was Andrew Van Ginkel or Grenard that.
Yeah, exactly right. So I guess my question is, if you look at the underlying statistics from 2023 to 24, what do those say? Because I think that provides a much more telling answer than just one statistical category.
Yeah, I mean, almost everything for Byron Murphy pointed up in most categories. I will say of the, let's see here, 128 qualified cornerbacks in the NFL, PFF had him as the 22nd graded cornerback, right there with Carlton Davis III from Detroit, right ahead of Darius Slay. Now, who the highest graded cornerback in the league was? Cooper DeJean. Rookie Cooper DeJean with Philadelphia.
Really?
And also there at 7 was the other rookie, Quinyon Mitchell for Philly. So, no, it helps if you're those guys and you have one of the most ridiculous defensive fronts in the league.
Again, yes.
That's why it's really hard, because sometimes you think cornerbacks, it's like it's one-on-one coverage. It's so much more than that. A great scheme, especially that Fangio scheme, You got a lot more guys back into coverage. It's just a lot easier to play your position when you've got 6 dudes rotating up front.
Yep.
In terms of pure coverage grade, Byron Murphy was 21st out of 128 qualified cornerbacks. So he is, and there's deeper metrics in here too. Like we could get into, what he's like in the slot, because he played 300 snaps in the slot, which is value. Like if the fact that he can play a third of his snaps in the slot and play outside, now you're worth $5 million more just because you're versatile. So I would just say, to put a bow on this, love the angle here from Seifert. Byron Murphy Jr. does make some sense as a transition tag guy. I don't know if he makes sense. Like a franchise tag would be, we're comfortable paying you as like the top cornerback in the league. I'm not quite there with Byron Murphy Jr.
Agreed completely. But yes, but he is, if we prioritize the free agents on this team, I think it's fair to say he is at the top of our list.
Now, real quick, just for fun, Byron Murphy, 17 million transition, 20 million franchise. Cam Bynum at safety would be $19.5 million franchise tag for a safety. That's a non-starter. But $15.5 million transition tag if you thought he was worth being one of the top 5, like paid as one of the top 5 safeties. So I'll throw him out there, but yeah.
I'm more concerned about corner. I'm sorry.
You'd rather give Theo Jackson $15.5.
Cam's look, he's a great guy. I love the dancing. He's a glue guy in the locker room. There's no question about it. But that one's not a real difficult discussion for me.
Yeah. By the way, the running back franchise tag number is up to $13.5 million this year. So I don't know if there's going to be any running back candidates. Go get your bag. Running back renaissance here. All right, it's time for some Vikings news here. The latest Vikings news. And let's start with this recklessly speculative article from CBSSports.com.
Reckless speculation.
And then tomorrow we'll get to I think it's our 4.0 offseason blueprint on tomorrow's show. So buckle up for that. But CBS Sports posted this juicy piece. Matthew Stafford trade scenarios. 3 potential deals to acquire the star Rams quarterback.
Okay.
Here's the second one on their list. The Rams would get a 2025 first-round pick from the Vikings, who would get Matthew Stafford.
Reckless speculation.
Here's the write-up. And there's I feel like every day it's like a crescendo of reckless speculation in the NFL. It's great. The Stafford stuff has left the station.
Yeah.
The Darnold take. We'll get to another Darnold projection. The Darnold takes have been
another one too
over the last.
And the infighting between the insiders on Darnold takes now is spectacular.
Yeah. So here's what CBS Sports writes about Stafford to the Vikings. And this is not reporting. This is just speculating. This is just good, fun speculation. If the Vikings want to improve their quarterback play from Darnold and still believe McCarthy needs time to develop, Stafford gives the Vikings a high ceiling for at least the next 2 seasons. If they think McCarthy is ready to ascend to QB1, however, or decide to stick with Darnold either via the franchise tag or an extension, that would block this landing spot for Stafford, obviously. But there is a connection between Stafford and the Vikings, thanks to coach Kevin O'Connell, who is his offensive coordinator in LA when the Rams won the title in 2021. That prior relationship could help facilitate a deal. From the Rams side of things, they'd be armed with 2 first-round picks, the 24 and the 26, which they could use to move around the board or simply stick and pick. Another layer to this would be that Darnold would shake free from Minnesota, creating another option for the Rams as they search for their next quarterback for the foreseeable future. What's funny about that last sentence is, if you put it all together, the Vikings would essentially be trading indirectly Sam Darnold and the number 24 overall pick for 37-year-old Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Which is
no,
patently absurd, I think.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe there'd have to be some other exchange here where okay, we'll give you the first round pick, but you have to kick back some other draft compensation. So maybe this is this a hot take 2.0 on this episode? Is this a hot take to suggest that the Vikings should consider trading for Matthew Stafford?
Well, here's the thing, and the same is true for Stafford and Cooper Kupp. I don't think anyone's trading for either one of them. Do I think that they could change teams? Absolutely, I think.
Well, Stafford's in a different category, though, isn't he? Don't you
But
think?
but
than
with
Kupp?
that contract, the thing with both of their contracts, and especially Stafford's, is if it's not redone, he's gone. So like he can either agree to a restructure, or if he and Kelly clearly his wife is going to help make this call, and it sounds like Kelly and the Rams might be more on the outs than her husband and the Rams. If he's going to balk at a restructure, they're going to have to release him. So the trade talk is great. Don't get me wrong. Reckless speculation is a lifestyle that I have long led and at times abused. So I love it. But the reality is I think at the end of the day, there's a better chance that he is, if things really go sideways completely, released. And let me say this for a potential hot take. I think there is a better chance that, and this is the caveat here, is I do believe that J.J. McCarthy is going to be the opening day Vikings quarterback in 2025. But that being said, I think there's a better chance that Matthew Stafford is the opening day quarterback for the Vikings in 2025 than Sam Darnold.
Oh, wow.
I think the Vikings, if they decided that J.J. McCarthy, and look, I mean, this is going down a lot of weird paths. He's too thin. He's not ready. He's emaciated. He looks like a model from the 90s. He's away from but the reality is, there is no question in my mind that as much as Darnold was turned around by KO, and KO really does like him, I think KO is far more in love with the guy who he saw win a Super Bowl. I think the Vikings, if they decided, oh boy, JJ can't do it in 2025, I think there's a far better chance that they would actually pursue Stafford and allow Darnold to walk, and Stafford would be the opening day QB for the Vikings.
Wow. I love the direction of that.
Kale loves him. Yeah. Loves him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, Stafford would be the better one-year option. He's won a Super Bowl. KO loves him. I get it. I don't know if it's a hot take, though, like to suggest that Stafford would be more likely to be the opening day QB as opposed to Darnold. But obviously, I know where Judd's logic is kind of flowing here. But he would have to be released. Like, I am not interested in trading any capital to land a 37-year-old quarterback when you have your heir apparent, who is hopefully supposed to be your guy ready to go already in 2025.
I mean, there's no way. They're not gonna release him, right? Some team would happily give up some draft compensation. The Giants, for example. Now, I don't think they're giving up their third overall pick to get a 37-year-old quarterback, but would they give up their high second-round pick? Coaching staff that's on the hot seat, front office that's on the hot seat. Do you really want to start over with Cam Ward and hope that your rookie can catch fire right away? So I think Cooper Kupp is a cut. Yeah. I think Matthew Stafford is a trade.
Well, is Stafford, so his brother-in-law now is with the Giants?
Yeah.
Like, I could just see him saying that, look, I'm not going to redo my contract, and the Giants saying he's told us privately he wants to play for us. I'm just saying Matthew Stafford and his family feel like the type of people who could make things very difficult if they don't like you. And I'm not quite sure that he wouldn't just call his shot. And if he gets let go, just sign in like one of two places, or potentially with the Giants, one of one.
You also have to consider, and I do have a Vikings related take on this, but if you put yourself in Stafford's shoes, he doesn't have to keep playing. He's won a Super Bowl. He's made a bajillion dollars. His family and him loved enjoying the Los Angeles life and traveling and whatnot. If he's going to go somewhere else to end his career, it feels like New York City makes more sense than, all due respect, we love it here. But what if he had never won a Super Bowl before and he thought, you know what, actually the Vikings are in a great spot for me right now. But don't you think New York would be partially like, okay, brother-in-law's there, it's New York City, let's just go do this for a couple of years to end our career?
Sure.
On the Viking side of things, and I know that I can already like sense the audience thinking, "What? This is ridiculous. There's no way they would ever consider trading for a 37-year-old. Let's just start the J.J. McCarthy era, And I think, yeah, like the odds-on favorite here is J.J. McCarthy going into 2025. But Kevin O'Connell won a Super Bowl as a coordinator with Matthew Stafford. They won 14 games this last season, and KO feels like there's unfinished business, that we are on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. And I don't think you would ever say this publicly. Our quarterback absolutely melted in the two most important games of the season. So the question you have to ask yourself, and I think the one scenario in which the Vikings should consider trading for a Matthew Stafford is, do you feel like you are an upgrade over Sam Darnold's performance in those last two games away from winning the Super Bowl or getting to the Super Bowl? Where if you were to, I know there's like offensive line flaws. That Rams team that won the Super Bowl in 2021, their defense was leaky for most of the year. Now they had, in the end, they had Aaron Donald in his prime, so I'll give you that. But they didn't really have a great running game. They were kind of patchworking it with like Sony Michel and like Cam Akers with an Achilles. So do you think if you were to replace that version of Sam Darnold with a high-end top pocket passer who knows that system inside and out, do the Vikings make an actual run to the Super Bowl? Because if the answer is yes, maybe it is something that you would consider.
Oh, I think in O'Connell's mind, the answer is absolutely yes. And again, if we're going to go down the fear-mongering path of what about JJ? Like, what about him? Look at him. Look, he can't play next year. And I don't agree with that. But I think if you were to rank him right now and say, okay, ideal situation, I think QB1, McCarthy starts, everything's great. You start a nice long run, 10 years.
It'd be great.
Of that. But
Totally.
two, in my opinion, Stafford, easy. Like, I don't think it's in O'Connell's mind, I don't think there's a debate between if you just put him on the street today, like if we were to play a pickup game, and my quarterback choices are Darnold or Stafford, and O'Connell is coaching one of the two teams, I don't think it's close. I think it's Stafford,
Okay.
Stafford, then Darnold.
What if it was, because the Vikings have their full allotment of 2026 picks, don't they? Let's see here. Because my suggestion was going to be, what if it's forget about like the 24. I'm not trading the 24th overall pick this year for Matthew Stafford.
Right.
But what if it was, so 2026, let's see here. Oh, they only, I guess in 2026, yeah, they have their first, third. Is that accurate? No, that's not loaded in here. But do they have their second round pick in 26? Because my suggestion was going to be third round pick this year, and then a conditional, depending on what happens this year. Then it's a second round pick, but converts to a first round pick if the Vikings like make it to the conference championship or something. So it would only really convert to a first round pick if you had massive team success.
Yeah. I would, I think if I'm the Vikings, so I will jump from KO shoes to Kwesi shoes. And I would say this, I don't think I would be, for a quarterback of that age who is in a contract dilemma, I don't think I would give up much asset-wise, but I do think that there is a definite discussion. Like if they're talking right now about contingency plans, which they should be, I do think there is a definite discussion. If you told me that I had to give up an asset for Stafford, I probably would give you a late round draft pick, and that's it. Like I'm not going to give you much. He's old. You're sort of screwed. Like that's the thing. The Rams are sort of boxed in here.
Yeah.
I originally thought that this was more along the lines of the old school Drew Brees Saints thing. Okay, let's kick it down the road some more, and then we'll kick it down, and we'll work this out, right? But I mean, if there is a true division between the two sides, and you told me, okay, you have to make a trade, I'm giving you a late round pick, and that's it. Or you know what? You're gonna have to, if you're the Rams, figure it out, and it's going to be difficult if the Staffords aren't going to help you out, which it sounds like they might not.
Yeah, it's crazy because like Stafford wouldn't help you get more regular season wins because you had 14 of them. You'd probably have fewer regular season wins, but would he be? And again, the goal would be that J.J. McCarthy is just immediately in the next couple of years becomes that dude, and now you're pushing forward. But it is more complicated because this team is it's kind of ready to pop in some ways. And then you add a couple pieces in free agency.
Yep.
So it's
I think this helps out with the Darnold defenders of, well, you got to bring him back. You got to bring him back. If he doesn't come back, no, I would rather go get Matthew Stafford and plug him into the Darnold role. Like you were playing these small shows, right? Like Darnold was playing these small shows and he won 14 games. The reviews were great. And it's like, okay, we're going Broadway. We're going to go on Broadway. Sammy, you ready to go on Broadway? Yeah, coach, let's go on Broadway.
we're going to replace you with a different lead actor.
But the problem was he starred, and the next thing you knew, there was a puddle by his leg.
Yeah, he did actually break his leg. Is what happened. We'll get to some more Vikings news here on this Monday, Purple Daily, including another Darnold projection, some Harrison Smith information. But this weekend is if you're jonesing for golf season, because it's 15 below temperature this morning in the Twin Cities, the North American banking company Minnesota Golf Show can be your middle of winter respite at the Minneapolis Convention Center Friday through Sunday. And on Saturday this weekend at 1:30, we're going to be doing a live Purple Daily on the stage just inside the golf show. And John Randall's going to come hang out with us for a little bit as we do a live Purple Daily episode. So you can get your tickets to the Minnesota Golf Show at mngolfshow.com. And each ticket purchased includes 10 free greens fees. So pretty awesome deal right there in itself. Plus, it's a chance to try out the latest clubs, apparel and equipment, free 10-minute lessons from local PGA professionals, the North American Banking Company, Minnesota Golf Show. Old Dex is preparing for a move, so two men in a truck are probably going to be there helping him soon.
Yes, they will be. Yeah, we had to move a mattress out of here yesterday, out of this bedroom I'm in right now, and it was hell. I do not enjoy moving stuff. Moving is not fun. I shouldn't be doing it, and I'm just going to give my friends at Two Men in a Truck a call to get a good quote and just take care of all those moving needs. It's one of the most stressful things you can do is move. And whether it's a single items, whether it's, full-scale cleanup too, whether you want to get rid of some of the junk that's in your house, they can move large items too, such as hot tubs, refrigerators, other appliances, no hidden fees or service charges. What they quote is what you pay. So give them a call, go to their website, go to twomenandatruck.com, twomenandajuncktruck.com too, if you want to get rid of that unwanted junk. Go give a call to our friends at twomenandatruck.com.
Also, a shout out to Blackstack Brewing. Blackstack is one of the coolest, largest tap rooms in the state of Minnesota. You can also get their amazing beers in most every liquor store around the state, and expanded distribution into Wisconsin, Nebraska, South Dakota. We've got a couple of Slopes French Pilsners in our fridge right now. There's a Pull Tabs Pale Ale. So, and also during Viking season, Blackstack available inside US Bank Stadium during Vikings games. Just an awesome place. Go hang out with your friends. A 190-inch big screen TV inside the tap room, food trucks and pop-ups, perfect space for family get-togethers, maybe even company meetups. Blackstackbrewing.com to see what's going on right now. Okay, back to more Vikings news. So the 33rd team came in here. The 33rd team is like that. It's like a media platform that was created by Mike Tannenbaum
and Spielman
and Rick Spielman. Was Spielman one of the co-creators of this?
I think he was in on the ground floor.
Yeah. So they got a bunch of like people inside the game or formerly inside the game that create content. And their projection for Sam Darnold is a 3-year, $120 million contract, so right around that $40 million a year mark, with 3 potential suitors: the Raiders, the Giants, the Titans. The Raiders have been one of the obvious ones because they're drafting 6. They may or may not have access to one of the top 2 quarterbacks. They may or may not even like the top 2 quarterbacks. So they make sense. Ton of cap space. The Giants have the 3rd overall pick, and the Titans have the 1st overall pick. So that would be, they have to make this decision 5 weeks, 6 weeks before the draft. Those teams would be interesting because they'd be telling you, we don't love the 2 quarterbacks on the board. We'd rather go get a 27-year-old Sam Darnold and either like trade back or draft non-quarterbacks to fill those needs. So interesting projection from the 33rd team.
I don't understand the Giants thing. Are both sides that psychotic? Like he would go back to New York?
It's the Giants. I feel like the Jets are a separate.
but it's the
haunted
market.
house over here.
But it's the market. You go back to like he would be asking, and plus it's not like there's stability there. Like if the Giants were still this glorious franchise, well run, and the Jets are a joke, and everybody reveres the Giants, maybe. But I feel like he would be absolutely going back into a hornet's nest. So that one I don't get. The Titans, I'm interested in. Now the Titans, I think probably are genuinely considering it, but not sure yet. Like the Titans call their shot, right? Like for them, they could keep that pick and draft Cam Ward. They could trade out, in which case it might make sense to sign Sam. The Raiders make a ton of sense, but if you could just get the Titans and the Raiders intrigued enough, that's where, again, the possibility, and I don't think it's going to take place, but the possibility of the franchise tag comes back in, right?
Give us your number one overall pick.
Is, for Sam Darnold, yeah. But that starts next week, because here's the best part. So tag day is Tuesday. Combine week is next week.
Oh.
So we're going to start you want to talk about answers? Do you want to talk about feet to the fire? That starts next week. But personally, I would, if I was to, with all due respect, 3013, you do a great job. But if I was to redo that top 3 list, I would probably put the team that we've talked about more, the Steelers. I just don't see the Giants I just think that's ripe for disaster.
If you're the Titans, would it make more sense to actually move off of number 1 before the free agency starts if you're all indeed getting Sam Darnold? Like, our plans, we're going to go get Sam Darnold. Because if you get Darnold and you still have the number 1 overall pick, would that limit some of the return you would get if you're going to move off number 1?
And what do you mean? So you're saying
so before free agency happens, the Titans say we have we've traded the 1st overall pick to the 5th overall team. We're going to do a swap. Wouldn't it? And then they go get Darnold. Like their intention is to go get Sam Darnold. Would it make more sense to do the trade before the free agency period opens with the idea of we're getting Darnold? Because if you get Darnold and hold on to the number 1 overall pick, wouldn't that limit the return you could possibly get from that top overall pick?
Yeah, because they lose leverage because teams would know that they're probably going to trade. I think the leverage stays the same for them because it's less about what they're going to do and it's more about other teams wanting the pick. The problem is if you get through the combine and closer to the actual draft, and it just becomes more obvious that, we like Cam Ward. All these teams are like, we like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, but we're not trading up to number 1 for them. So I think you lose more leverage if those guys get evaluated more at the combine and pro days. It's more about how many teams want. But of course, if those guys show out and you need a quarterback, are you more likely to draft one? I don't know. But the Titans, that's like the 3rd time the Titans have popped up in some interesting article.
Or do you stay at 1 and take either the Penn State edge, or I mean, I am still remarkably intrigued. Travis Hunter's a hell of a player. Like that guy is a hell of a talent. So I mean, I could see in a world where you stay put at 1 and you just don't that's the thing is there's not always going to be a quarterback who deserves that.
Yep. You always elevate the quarterbacks like, oh, these are the best quarterbacks, so they have to go 1 and 2. No, okay, but then you pass on a generational trenches player or something, right? Yeah. Okay, from the Star Tribune, a Harrison Smith retirement decision needs to happen basically within the next month, less than the next month.
Yes.
So Harrison Smith has a league minimum base salary of $1.25 million next year, which he's not going to play on. But on the flip side, if he's on the roster by the 3rd day of the 2025 league year, which I believe is March 14th, he has a $25 million base salary for 2026 that becomes fully guaranteed.
Cool.
So I think this was the way of this is where the negotiation landed, which is let's take this year to year. And in order for that to happen, Harrison Smith's camp agreed to a $1.25 million base that he won't play on. He'll need at least $5 or $6 or $7 million guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So that's a point of renegotiation. But then on the flip side, it's like, okay, well, if my client is still on the team as of March 14th, then you have to pay him a $25 million base salary for 2026, which is a non-starter. The Vikings don't want to cut him, obviously. So it's kind of a I think it's set up that way for both sides to come together before March 14th and figure out what are we doing here for 2025.
Yep.
But we're almost certainly going to get some clarity on this unless they bump one of these dates back because he needs more time to think.
So he, I believe he's taken, if I'm correct on this, I think he's taken pay cuts the past 2 years. Like they do this. It's basically a fake contract, right?
Yeah.
And then he decides, I want to play, and they go, okay, you can play for $7 million. And this does. There's a bunch of contracts exactly like this. It syncs up with exactly what the Chiefs basically told Travis Kelce the same thing. We need to know in a month. Like, we can't wait because he's due some significant bonus a couple days.
And you create the fake contract
Yes.
in order to make the date you don't get to think until May. We have to know.
It's a trigger date.
Yep.
Absolutely. So this does not come as a surprise. I think the longer we go, the better the chance he plays. And look, Brian Flores, he absolutely adores him, is back, which is good news. They just won 14 games. The locker room seems to be in a fantastic place. He loves this. And he does escape the Zolgadian rule because of his position. He plays safety. His smarts can get him by. Like, he is not the same guy. There's no question. Like if you go back and look at 2017 athletically talented Harrison Smith and now, there's not really comparison. But he's so smart, and the safety position calls for that. So I don't think getting a decision from him by that date in a month is going to be difficult. I think that there is a very good chance he comes back.
Yeah, and the fact that Cam Bynum is a free agent and that's up in the air, it just if you wind up losing both those guys, and let's say Harrison Smith comes back, I think it cushions the blow of losing Cam Bynum potentially. And if you internally don't want to pay both Bynum and Byron Murphy Jr., it just like Harrison Smith coming back kind of buys you another year to figure out that position and who's going to be there.
And he's in stupid great shape. Like this guy's a maniac. Like his routine and stuff. So that's not a concern. And if you guys recall, going back a year now, I think it was last spring, when I think it was O'Connell during one of the OTAs or something said, "Oh yeah, Harry snaps, they got to go down. We can't keep going to him. He's definitely going to not play as much in 2024 as 23." And then his snaps were again like down slightly, but they were off the charts. So this is one where I think it would be advantageous for both sides if he comes back, and he can literally go year by year now.
Yep, and it'd be so much fun to get that dude. If this team does pop in the next couple of years and win a championship, which I know sounds insane to Vikings fans, especially the older generation ones, like they're never going to do it. But he deserves to be on that podium if they make it happen. And it's like, they won 14 games. They're starting this McCarthy era or the Stafford era. We'll see.
Yep.
One more note here, Vikings news. I also have a mock draft I just found for you guys too. Field Yates from ESPN. Aaron Jones has agreed to move the void date on his contract back from today. Today was supposed to be the date where his contract voids, and then he becomes a free agent. So they've moved it back. And by the way, the reason why that's a thing is because the Vikings, it was a 1-year deal with Jones, but they put a void year on it, I believe, to push some of the cap into 2025.
Yep, they did.
So what the Vikings are looking to avoid here is having to eat a dead cap penalty, and then also, if they want to bring him back, like they'd be kind of paying double to the books for 2025. So this is a mechanical thing where instead of making the decision today, Aaron Jones camp and the Vikings agreed to let's move that decision date to the final day before NFL free agency so we can all have conversations with each other, maybe even with, you're not supposed to do this, but other teams
tampering
over a cocktail at the combine.
No. Oh my God.
But, Aaron Jones, 1,186 yards last year, his most since 2020. 4.4 yards per carry, the worst of his career, actually, which is kind of amazing because it's not a terrible number, but he's been closer to 5 more often than not.
Sure.
He had 54 catches for 420 yards, which was a great element to the Vikings passing game. PFF had Aaron Jones 19th out of 50 qualified running backs, ahead of Cam Akers, who was 27th. Yards after contact per attempt, he was 27th out of 50. Cam Akers was 35th. So it's like Aaron Jones is a good, solid veteran running back. I'd like him back, but you got to be a little careful devoting $7 or $8 million a year to a guy that you're probably looking to replace in the 3rd or 5th round of this year's draft.
And definitely 100% part of a timeshare, preferably with a guy that I draft. Preferably with a guy I draft who plays, Ty Chandler. Yeah. So if he comes back on my terms, which I would give him less than last year, I'd give him 5. I think 5 is fair because he wouldn't be used as much. And, I like him. I think he is great in the room. I think he is fantastic as a teammate. His actual value on the field, though, is waning. And so if he came back for 1 year and 5, I'm fine. If someone's going to pay him 7, I'm probably out.
Yeah, I know Cam Akers, it's like every other year he's coming back from some devastating injury, but he's not. He's like 26 years old still. He's not that old. And I think you probably get Cam Akers back for not veteran minimum, but like a couple $2-3 million. Could Akers give you and either one of these guys you're looking to replace? So I wouldn't mind if they just said, all right, Cam Akers, come on in here, and then we'll find 1 or 2 running backs in the draft or undrafted free agents. Kind of go from there. All right.
I want a mock.
Okay, this Joel Klatt, one of the lead college football analysts in the country.
Gus Johnson's
guy,
right? He works with Gus.
He does. He's got strong takes. So this mock today is presented by Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Federated has been around for over 100 years, 120 plus years, based in Owatonna, Minnesota, but they help businesses all over the country. So wherever you are as a Purple Daily listener, viewer / business owner, you can go to federatedinsurance.com to find a list of industries that they specialize in and find out about the rich history of this great company. They're here to help you like a great offensive line, frontline protection, risk management, so you can stay focused on growing your business. Find out more at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, so Joel Klatt has a trade right out of the gate here, boys.
Way to go, Joel. Way to go, my guy.
He's got the Giants trading up for Shedeur Sanders, number 1. Yeah, if you're not trading, you're not mocking.
Really?
He's got the Browns taking Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter.
To replace Myles Garrett.
And then the Titans, they trade back to 3 and still get Cam Ward with the number 3 overall pick. So they pick up some draft capital. They still get a quarterback. He doesn't have the exact trade details in here, but they probably picked up a 2nd-round pick or something.
Yep.
All right, Travis Hunter going 5 to the Jaguars. Nice little weapon there. Let's scroll down to the 24th overall pick, where the Minnesota Vikings select out of Oregon defensive tackle Derek Harmon.
I want a mock.
I like the position.
Yeah, he led all interior defenders in quarterback pressures last year. 55 pressures from the interior.
Wow.
Recording 12 more pressures than any other interior defensive lineman. Harmon's an interior, twitchy defensive player that can help a Vikings team that needs interior help. Twitchy.
Football.
Twitchy. Gotta be twitchy.
Nothing wrong with twitchy. Nothing wrong with quick tip. Yep. Bang, bang, bang. Just like that. Yeah, I like that. I'm a little bit surprised. So are we on the verge with the combine starting next week and then pro days in March? Are we on the verge of Shedeur going up to that top pick? Because it feels like he's been falling, but there have been really no workouts or,
Well, how much is he going to do at the combine? Do we know? A lot of these guys just they bail on the 40.
But okay, so the pro day. I'm saying, is Klatt forecasting that we're about to get a run on Shedeur Sanders' height?
Or is he just kind of linking the Giants, big flashy city? Shedeur Sanders is going to wind up in either New York or Vegas. They're not going to
coaching there
tuck him away in Cleveland. Yeah. Well, think about that. He comes in the first year in that division too, Philadelphia, Washington. You're probably not immediately winning 11 games in that division. So the season goes kind of haywire. Maybe Shador and Brian Dable don't love each other.
I could see that easy.
They're already on the hot seat.
Yep.
Fire Brian Dable, bring in Deion Sanders.
Interesting. You never know. Like,
So
you
there-
never know how the stuff is going to, like, morph, right? Like, a month from now, it could be Shador Sanders is a surefire first pick in the draft.
Yep, this is a funny season or silly season, as you call it. So, all right, let us know on the Stafford front. Is this just ridiculous, complete? I think Judd's take is the one to drill down on. If the Vikings decided we need 1 year of a high-end player, but we don't want to commit really beyond that, would you rather have Darnold back for 1 more year or Matthew Stafford for 1 year? That's kind of a fun. Or Aaron Rodgers.
And if it's Sam, why do you insist on being wrong?
Wow. Judd just
Ask KO
fighting.
that when they reintroduced Sam Darnold at the presser.
Yeah. Okay. So you're wrong about this, Kevin.
So, yeah. So you didn't watch the last 2 games. That's cool.
Are you aware that you're wrong?
My opinions, if they were to do that, would actually change about them. So we just didn't watch. So we just didn't watch the last 2 games.
Oh, I got you.
I'm saying, yeah, those last 2 games, big mark on me.
Woof. All right, boys. That's a wrap on Purple Daily here today. Daily Vikings Entertainment. Tomorrow we'll get you our 4.0 offseason blueprint episode and plenty more as we get into tag season. Free agency is coming up in just 3 weeks. The NFL Combine. This is where teams are built in the coming weeks here. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.